So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a job that I know I've got completed here. So this is my Joblogic job desk. As you can see, filters at the top again, guys. You should all be used to this by now. I'm going to use this job at A04 at Gibbs Street because I know I've got some information waiting for me on there from my engineer. So before we go near anything to do with costing and invoicing this job, the first thing we're going to do is talk about adding a purchase order. Now, in your menu on the left hand side, guys, what you'll see is obviously your main menus down the left here. You have got a purchase order screen where you can see all your purchase orders. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about that. We're going to look at that towards the end, okay? Because primarily, currently, a purchase order is logged to a job. So we're going to add a purchase order. Once you click on adding purchase order, you can see it's a nice, easy introductory screen with some 3 key points on it. It tells you the job. Again, there's a shortcut to the job if you want to check anything. So don't forget, guys, use that right click, open it in a new tab. And then if you want the job information open whilst you're doing the purchase order, you can do that. So you just flick between them like so. It's then asking me who is my supplier. So if I click my menu, I'll get my top 10. If not, I can just start typing and it will bring up the suppliers that mention the word JL for Joblogic. So I'm going to use my Joblogic suppliers here as a dummy supplier. Now what you can see straight away is it's put my account number in. So this is my number inside my accounts package, not my account number with my supplier. The reason we ask you this is because, as some of you may know, we can export supplier invoices to your accounts package. Okay, so if you're ever unsure, guys, hover over that question mark there and you can see it'll tell you exactly what it's for. Finally, the delivery address is a choice. I can deliver it to my job, to my storeroom, to my engineer's location. So if any of you guys use your engineer's personal address, it'll be put in there. So sometimes we get told in training that engineers can have things dropped off at their home due to people working from suppliers by them and so on. If not, that'll be identical to your storeroom address because they're both your business address. If not, you can put other and you can free type it. So any of you guys want this delivering any other address, or if some of you use drop boxes and things like that, then obviously you can fill that in as well. For this webinar, I'm just going to choose the job, and this is where we're going to get this purchase order delivered. You can also see there we've got an estimated delivery date, and I'm going to live in a bit of a fantasy world and say that they're coming today, even though it's 20 to 3 in the afternoon. Hopefully that exists somewhere. Once I'm happy, I'm going to hit save. As soon as I do that, it's like every other screen in Joblogic. It will refresh, open up, and it will give you the detailed, comprehensive sort of screen with your big, thick blue bar at the top. So again, guys, just keep thinking everything I do at the top line is all about actions. They're action buttons, so they'll do something. So I can email, download, print, or cancel my purchase order. And in fact, there's one hidden button here, which some of you are getting used to seeing now, where I can click on those 3 dots and it will offer me the chance to delete my purchase order. Now this is because I have permission to do that, and you may give this permission to some of your team and not to other members if it's not their role. You can obviously do that in your settings area where you can permission your staff's login. What you'll see underneath the purchase order number is straight away I've got 3 icons, or 3 feature buttons if you like, where I can give this purchase order content. Okay, so firstly, let's have a look at the details screen here. You can see my job number. Again, guys, nice little hyperlink there, but we've already got our job open here, so if I need to know anything, I can nip back to it. you've got your delivery address. You've then got this main details section here, which, like every other screen in our system, is locked down until you press edit. The moment you press edit, everything becomes editable, obviously. You can change your supplier, you can change, obviously the account number will get changed, the delivery address and so on. And you can also add, below these coloured bars, which I'll explain in a second, you can add additional instructions. So in here you might say Joblogic engineer only to sign for these goods. So what we're basically sort of putting at the front, forewarning them, is when this gets delivered that only I can sign for these goods, and we won't accept, you know, a receptionist or another member of their team signing for them. It just has to be me, the Joblogic engineer. The 3 status bars, as I previously mentioned, are going to give you notice, warning and color graphics. Again guys, these traffic lights that we like using to show you the current progress of the PO. So at the moment you can see it's in progress, so my status is in progress. It knows I'm building it, it knows I'm drawing it up. The delivery status isn't applicable at the moment because we've entered no goods, and the invoice status obviously isn't applicable because we haven't received the invoice off the supplier yet, which we'll get to at the end. So to begin building this, see it's nicely in order. Next button is items. So this is where we begin to build the purchase order that we want to send out to our supplier. Now guys, you've got a multitude of choices in here. Firstly, you can use your parts library. So any of you guys really using the parts library in anger, you can use your parts library. You know, your parts library is unlimited. You could have 50 parts in there, you could have 50,000, it doesn't matter. But the moment you start typing, it's going to find you anything that starts to mirror what you're typing in. Now again guys, same as our search engines everywhere else, it's any part of that word or that sentence. So if I, for instance, type in the word boiler, it will go and find me anything that matches the word boiler, and you can see boiler is there, but it still found it straight away. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is I can use my parts library. It knows the part number, it knows I order in quantities of 1 because that's what I've set up in my library. It knows at the moment that it's 885.98. That's what's in my parts library. But of course this is the point where you might say, well actually I got it a little bit cheaper and it was 869. If I get any discount, I can put my discount in there. Now this is either going to be the listed price with a discount, or this will be your discounted price. So it's entirely up to you guys. If you want to put 899 in there and then put the fact that you get 10% off, you're more than welcome to do so in Joblogic. Again, your tax rate is defaulting to what we set up in the system settings of 20%, and the description. Now this guys is editable. You can add things onto this, you can add anything you've had as a conversation with your supplier, but it will never affect your library entry here. Okay, so this is what we're saying is this description is just for this one-off order. Once I'm happy, I can save it like so. Now what I didn't show you there was if I can't find the part in my parts library, I can add a brand new part into my parts library from here, just like so. So now what we always say at Joblogic is if you're going to type it once, why not type it so it's inside the library that you can use it again? Okay, but that's your choice guys. You can just simply skip the part here and go straight down to the description. And in here I might say I'm going to order to go with this boiler a radiator for argument's sake. Now you can see these little red stars because they are mandatory fields. So I don't need a part description or a part number. I don't have to put that in. But I want 6 of these radiators. They're costing me £100 each. And I'm just going to put radiators in the description. And I can save it. No discount on this line. So you can see now I've got my Baxi Eco Blue. I've got my radiator. And another common thing people talk to us about here is they type in carriage or delivery, whatever it might be. I'm going to say £25 on there, like so. Now, as you can see, or you've probably guessed, this isn't limited to how much you can put on here. So you can keep adding part after part after part onto here, or material after material after material, and it will let you continuously add them and add them up as it's going along. Okay, so for you guys that might want to use this for subcontractors, what you can do is add in here and put a description. Half day on site as per agreement, and then obviously you're going to put in what it costs you for a subby to be on site for half a day. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a material. What you can do is just put a description of a site attendance or a fix or the agreed works that you've said to your subcontractor that they'll do for you. You know, if they're repairing a sink or an AC unit or window or a door or a roof, it doesn't matter. Just describe that in the description and put the agreed price and save it as we have done with the rest of them. Okay guys, so we've basically got our purchase order drafted up. We put a nice little bit of additional instructions here that nobody can sign for these goods apart from me. Now, you will all have different processes in your office, whether you decide to do this now with the engineer on the phone so you can give them a supplier invoice number, your purchase invoice number, or whether you want to do this retrospectively. I can't tell you how to do that. It's going to be your process. But what will happen naturally now is this will go to the supplier, or a copy will be given to your suppliers. So you've got some action buttons at the top as we spoke about a minute ago. And the first thing you can do is email this purchase order to your supplier. Now what you can see there, I can default it straight to my supplier's email address that I had set up in my supplier's contact. I've also got the subject. It's telling them the purchase order number from my business name, and here's the purchase order, and basically what it's going to do is put a PDF against the email, and I can hit send. So that email has been sent now, as you can see down the bottom there. What I can also do, and this obviously lets me show you what this is like, whether I email it or download it, what's going to happen is it's going to ask you a question saying, do you wish to update the status of this purchase order to sent? So it's asking you if you're going to change that status we looked at on that first screen from in progress to sent. And I do want to do that. It's why I've downloaded it. I'm going to send it to my supplier. So I can open my purchase order. Now you can see guys, your logos will be here where ours is at the moment, and you've got your purchase order number, where it's to, who it's from, the order date, the due date, and again there you've got that nice listing that we had on our screen a moment ago. So I've got my carriage, my radiator, my Baxi Blue combi boiler in there. I've got my totaling excluding VAT, my discount of £89.90, my VAT amount, and then my total plus the VAT and minus the discount obviously, and where it's going to be delivered, and the fact that I'm the only one who can sign for these goods. So it's a nice looking little template guys. It gets emailed over like this as well, or you can download it and attach it to your own email if you want to make it more personalized and obviously come from your email address. I can of course print it. That will then give me a screen preview of it again and then offer me my printers inside here. And I've already said that. So finally I've got my cancellation button. Now this is different to the delete. Delete will just wipe this out of your system, but cancel will basically say it's not needed anymore, but keep it on record. So there'll be a record, a cancelled PO that you can go and find. Okay. If we just nip back to the detail screen here guys, what you can see now, a few of these traffic light things are kicking in and changing. We've got a green one, nice and safe, little green, sent. So the status of my purchase order now that it's left the building, so to speak. And then you've got the delivery status as not delivered. So nothing's happened with the goods yet. Of course, there's no change in the supplier invoice at the moment. So the next part of the process, guys, obviously, is this gets delivered or it gets picked up. I've sent it. They've got it ready. My engineer's going to pick it up. They're going to send it to my office. They're going to send it to the site. Whichever way, you're going to tell Joblogic. Now, ideally, everything arrives. Everything's nice and hunky-dory. There's no problems. But as you know and as we know, that isn't the real world. Okay, your boiler could arrive, but the radiators haven't made it onto the delivery and they're giving you those tomorrow. Okay, so that's fine. It doesn't stop me getting started on the boiler, but we need Joblogic to be told what's happened, because what we do, guys, is we take away the fact of you having to remember everything about different purchase orders. So when somebody says I haven't had everything, or you know there's stuff to follow, whatever happens, tell Joblogic. If you have everything, deliver everything. Just hit deliver all, job done, happy days. If the boiler turns up, then we can hit deliver. It says, okay, was it delivered today? Yes, it was. And you can see I've got a little delivered green icon here. I'm also going to deliver my carriage, because damn straight they're going to charge me for that. But my radiators haven't turned up yet, and the engineer's been informed that it's not going to be till tomorrow. So if you look back now at the details section here, this is why we tell Joblogic if we have only had partial delivery, because Joblogic warned you. Not only in this screen here, if we just nip back over here, look into our purchase order screen, I'm going to open my purchase order desk in a new window just so I can see them all up there, and I'm just going to close that job window there. So this is my purchase order screen. Now what you can see straight away is a yellow bar that's catching my eye that's saying, whoa, hang on a sec, we're missing something off that. It's been partially delivered. But if you wanted, you know, someone's process or someone in your office who's looking after purchase orders, they might come in the morning and they might say, right, okay, show me every single purchase order that hasn't been delivered or is partially delivered. And when they hit search, Joblogic's showing them what's going on. Okay, so this is taking away from you the fact that you've got to remember you haven't had this for this job, or write it on a piece of paper, whatever it is. Tell Joblogic, guys, and you don't have to think about it. Okay, it's always going to alert you, and it will alert you when you come to invoice as well if something hasn't been processed. So with that in mind, I'm going to deliver this one now, just so we've got a nice clean purchase order there, and all my items have been successfully delivered, and this is now got 2 green bars. So there's the first 2 parts of my process. I raised it, I sent it, and then it's been delivered to my job. My engineer signed it off. What's happened now is, guys, if I can just direct your attention to the job screen. So I'm just going to leave this here and open that job screen again and click on here. What you're going to see inside your cost screen here is everything that we just raised has now been delivered into the costing area of the job. Okay, not only that, our boiler and our radiators have automatically been uplifted by the agreed price for the customer. My 35% markup is showing there, and it's working all that out for me. So we're going to come back to this screen in a moment, guys. I just wanted you to show you, sorry, that it dropped in there. Not a problem. All nice and safe, ready to be invoiced. But there's one last stage for your purchase orders, and this is the last bit that we need to speak about, and then we're going to talk about invoicing the job. The last stage, and this is again your choice. We would love you to use obviously everything inside Joblogic, but it's got to be something you're happy doing. As you know, Joblogic exports to various accounts packages, and what we can do is export your supplier's invoice that you've entered into Joblogic into your accounts package. Now, the reason, as a trainer, I believe you should do this in Joblogic is that you've done all the work already. So when that supplier invoice comes in, why sit in front of Sage or QuickBooks or Exchequer or Xero or whatever it might be? Why sit in front of those accounts packages and type all this in again? Because you've done it once already. And Joblogic recognizes that. So when you go into the supplier invoice section, this is where you're going in to put in an invoice or indeed a credit, if you're lucky to get one off your suppliers. You can add your invoice, but look at the questions Joblogic asks you. What's the number? What's it dated? How much is it? And do you want to upload it? Because it knows everything else. It knows it was the back seat, it knows it was carriage, it knows it was radiator, it knows the supplier. You don't have to do anything other than answer these 3 questions. So in here, I can put supplier's invoice number, and I can date it today, I can date it when I get it, so if it arrived on Friday, I date it as Friday or whatever it is. You know exactly what you need to do there. But the amount here is Joblogic assuming this is what they've sent. Okay, now obviously again guys, we talk about processes in your office often, and you will have a process if that supplier's invoice comes in for £1,820. Something's not quite right there. There's £100 difference. Now it's either a clerical error your side or a clerical error their side. Somebody hasn't communicated a price, there's been an increase, whatever it might be. Again, tell Joblogic. Okay, so if this come in for 1,820.92, I'm going to tell it. It says, do you want to upload the file, the electronic copy of it? Why not? So I'm just going to upload one I've got on record here. So I've scanned my supplier's invoice and I've uploaded it into Joblogic. So if I ever need it, it's in Joblogic. It's on the job in Joblogic. I can get to it from the job screen, the invoice screen. It's where I want it to be. So I save it. Now the purchase order supplier invoice has been successfully saved. So there it is, sat against my purchase order. But now we have a problem. Joblogic is telling us it's in query. It's telling us there is a problem that we need to resolve up here. Now this, going back to this process we spoke about guys, when you click on the resolve button, Joblogic will tell you there's an amount to resolve of £100. So it says that they don't match. And what it's going to do, if you choose to resolve it, if you choose to say, well, we made enough on that job, and yes, there was a late price increase, it was just a miscommunication, I'm happy to take the £100 hit, then you have to tell Joblogic. Now, ignore these guys, these aren't your reasons, these are just being remembered by my web browser because I've got that turned on. But again, you might say adjustment authorized by Frank. Okay, so, or you can just put your initials in, but you've got to tell it that it's been authorized or the reason for resolving. You could put in here price increase before delivery, accepted it, agreed it, whatever you want to do. I just see most people putting in their initials or who said yes, go ahead. Once you've done that, you resolve it, and Joblogic then recalculates it all, settles it all, and says this has been matched, but there was a resolution reason which was authorized by Frank. Okay, so with that, that's now been delivered to our job. We've put our supplier's invoice in, which is now armed, ready to be exported should you wish to go down that route. Now that's kind of like a two-part question. You can use this supplier invoice section, and I would encourage you to do so, to hold a copy of your supplier invoice and put in the money. But it doesn't mean you have to export it into your accounts package if you don't want to. If indeed you want to give it to your accounts team and you want them to sit in front of their Xero or Sage or whatever it might be and type it all in, that's your prerogative, guys. Okay, all we're saying is there's an export facility in here that 2 or 3 clicks and you've got a little CSV file that's ready to be imported into your accounts package. Okay, just check with us if it's compatible, give our support team a call, tell them which accounts package you're using, and they'll tell you which export you need to use. Right then guys, that's everything we wanted to cover today on purchase orders. So what we're going to do now, as I've said, we're going to go on to the invoicing section and have a look at that. We're simply just going to invoice a job. We're not going to go into massive detail about this, guys, but we are going to talk about what's been previously set up and why Joblogic is doing what it's doing. So again, I can just either right click, or I've actually finished on this screen now, so I'm just going to click on my job number and there's my job there. So as I said to you guys, I've got a job that's ready with some mobile details. So I've said that this is completed and everything's sort of been done on the mobile side of things because I wanted you to see that. So what you've got, what's first and foremost to do with your invoicing is your cost screen. Okay, obviously you might all be chomping at the bit for me to click this, but I'm going to explain a slight difference between these two buttons. Your cost screen is where all your costs and everything are captured. Now just let me shrink all this up for you here, guys, so it just looks a little bit neater whilst we talk about things, because it might look a little bit overwhelming. There we go. So it's telling me on my cost screen I've got my labor cost here and I've got an estimated sell value. There's no overtime. I've got a little bit of travel, but it's not chargeable. How I know that is I've got a cost and I've got an estimated sell of 0. So inside my customer record they have a sell rate, and that sell rate is telling Joblogic that we never charge this customer for travel. It's also got mileage, which again is never chargeable. So these are two areas where we're going to take a bottom line hit, if you like, or it's included in your, perhaps you do a call out fee for the first hour and travel and mileage are included in that. So I've got my materials there, you can see 1434, and it's automatically marking them up and telling me that they're ready to charge at 2057. So let's have a quick look here at my materials. So you can see my radiator, got 6 of them, £100, 20% VAT, £600 cost. Yes, is chargeable. That's what that column is there. So it's telling me it's chargeable to the customer. It's a 35% agreed markup, which makes it £135. You can see now I do basic easy maths, giving me £810. I've then got my carriage look, which I put in on the purchase order. Now Joblogic has assumed that I want to charge for this, okay, but I can edit this. I can edit any line inside this cost screen that I want, and what I can also do is say don't charge him for the carriage. So I want the £25 cost, but I don't want it to charge him for the carriage, and you can see now it's changed it to no. I've also got my baxi, it's £809, but can you see this here? It's saying it's a 50% markup. Now that's because inside my parts library I have a fixed price against this boiler, and it's basically worked it out for me. Okay, so you can have a agreed markup, or you can have a fixed price in your parts library to say whenever I sell them it must be at this price. I don't care who the customer is. Now what I wanted to explain to you about this screen, guys, is everything is editable. Okay, so I've got a bit of labour there, look, I've got £1.81 and a £4.90 sell rate, so I might go into there and say, oh, let's have a look at this. Look, you know, it's 7 minutes. I'm going to round this up to an hour. Now this is where you have to ask yourself a question, because if you're rounding it up for an hour for it to sell to your customer, so you go in, right, we do a minimum 1 hour charge. It doesn't matter if it's 57 minutes, it doesn't matter if it's 7 minutes, it's a minimum 1 hour. Or we roll it up, we always roll it up by the hour. If you're going to do that, you don't do it here. Okay, the reason for that, guys, is if you roll this up by an hour, firstly you're going to have to edit the time, which is maybe not what you want to do. You just want to show 1 hour. But the sort of thing to recognize about that is if you change that from 10:27 to 11:27 here, it's not only going to put 1 hour sell against your job, which is ace, that's what we want the 42 quid, but it's also going to put £15.50. It's going to put an hour of £15.50, where in real terms he was only there 7 minutes. So your uplift, excuse me, your P&L will show 1 hour cost, 1 hour sell, where really it's 7 minutes cost and 1 hour sell. So the thing to bear in mind is if something is horrifically wrong in here from the mobile, as in the engineer's left it traveling on a Friday night and he hasn't realized till Monday morning, then yes, come into here, delete it, add a new line, or come into here and edit it and get the cost right and get the sell value right. But if all you're doing is coming into this screen to, shall we say, creatively alter some values to round your invoice up, then you do it when you add the invoice. Okay, so your costs live in here. When we click on add invoice, it's now going to produce a draft invoice, and what it's going to show you is everything that's chargeable to the customer. But look, I can edit any of these invoice lines. So I've got 2 lines of labor there, which is a bit unnecessary. So what I can do is delete the shortest line, if you like, that's 12 minutes in there, and then edit my main line. Oh, sorry, I was just being a bit previous there, it's just refreshing and I was being a bit too quick. And then I can edit the main line and say 1.5 hours, because all it's going to affect is my sell value. It doesn't care what it costs me. I can change that to 4 hours, and it's 4 times 42, and it's not even going to begin to think about your costing. So this is your invoice number 9 draft, and it's that you're altering in here. Now again guys, if you've got any questions about this, just ask it at the end, but hopefully that makes sense. Your costing screen will allow you to edit costs and sell values, and they will affect each other. Whereas when you bring up a draft invoice and you begin to edit anything inside it, you are only editing the invoice and the invoice amounts and the invoice text. Okay, good. What have we got in this screen then? So invoice address, editable. So if the customer says, well, we're not paying for this time, the site is, then you can send it to the site, or they might want you to send it to, you know, another company that might be dealing with it, or a managing agent or anything like that. So you can change the invoice address and it will refresh when you commit it. It confirms the site, confirms the job. We can also, as well as our job tags, we can tag invoices. So if you want to tag invoices, say to a particular salesman or a particular salesman's area or a particular area of your business, if you split your business up into trades, you can tag it. So I can tag this invoice and say it's Steve Morris. So Steve Morris is my salesman, and I'm going to put this invoice into his domain, so to speak, and Steve can search for his invoices that are related to his jobs and his clients. I've got my date raised, my order number, my account number, all self-populated guys, and again, there's those details. Now, what you can also do, as well as editing and removing, you can add a brand new line. So I can go into here and just add a new line and just say, I don't know, consumables. And they were £50, and save it. So now I've just added a line out the blue that doesn't even come into the job. I've just called it consumables and got another £50 on my invoice. Okay, for those of you who use nominal codes, they will be populated by whatever you set up in the settings area here, and if you saw when I added this line, it will offer me any other revenue inside here. Okay, so if any of you use them, you can also edit these as you're going along, as well as set them up inside your settings area here to be automatic. Finally on this screen guys, you've got a note section. Now if you've made your job nice and detailed and the description all nice, you know, to attend site and carry out installation of backseat boiler to include 6 radiators, all fittings, etc., if you've put that on your job description, there is no need to put it in here, because we will pull the job description through. But if you want to add further things, you can simply add them to the header, which is at the top near the description, or the notes, which is at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so you can do whatever you want, as well as changing your terms. I'm going to leave this just to use my job description and unlock that back up. What you can also see is the total excluding VAT, my VAT amount, and then it's giving me my total including VAT. Now the reason mine says remaining balance is that my training environment here is connected to payment options. So we've got a payment gateway in Joblogic. We currently use Stripe, but there are plans to obviously look at things like WorldPay and PayPal and so on, but Stripe seems to be one of the cheapest out there. And you can send your customer this email with a payment link for them to pay on it. And when they pay with their credit card details, it tells Joblogic and tells you if they paid everything or if they paid you £1,000 deposit or anything like that. So as you can imagine, in the domestic arena, this is really powerful. But even in the commercial arena, we still have people who engineers get things paid for when they're there. So right at the top again, two options based on a little rocker switch here, guys, that you just simply turn on or turn to detailed. A detailed invoice is going to include all these lines here. Okay, so it's going to tell them the price, the quantity, the VAT, the total. It doesn't mention nominal codes because that's just for you. So a detailed one will will give your customer the description and all the sort of guts, if you like, the main details of the invoice. Whereas a totals only will only give them the terminology, as in the description of your job or any notes you put in down here, and the bottom price. It's as simple as that. It leaves this section out. So let's have a look at the detailed one first. So if we hit print, like so, there's your draft invoice. Now it's got draft and a watermark right across the middle of it to show you that it's a draft. Now people use this for application of payments or pro forma invoicing, anything like that. You send them a draft and say, this is what we're going to be billing you, is this fine? And then obviously you can approve it. Again, guys, your logo will appear there, not ours. So I've got my invoice number, my address, my telephone, email address, VAT number, etc. The invoice address and the site address. And then you can see leak found in reception. So A, my spelling isn't very good, and B, my description wasn't very long as I thought it was, but it's there that it pulls it from the job. So if you make your job descriptions nice and full, not ridiculously war and peace, because that's just going to upset your engineers, but if you make it, you know, 1 or 2 lines of nice detail, that's going to save you a job when you're invoicing. And you can see I've got my detailed version here with my payment details and my backs terms, etc. at the bottom. So that's my detailed invoice. If I switch this now to totals only and just let my screen refresh like so, and then I print there, you'll then see that it gives me the same draft, but there, look how tidy that is straight away, nothing in the middle. Now obviously you're going to have some customers that you can get away with this and some that you can't, but we give you both choices. Okay, so you can make it as detailed as you want or as vague as you want. I can download, just going to switch this back to detailed, guys. I'm going to download my invoice. So again, I can download it, I can open it. It's exactly what we've seen here, guys, but I just wanted you to see the download because some people like to send it from their own email addresses. And you can, of course, email this over to your customer, like so. Okay. Finally, we have an approve. So if you do work with customers that have to have an application for payment or have to have a pro forma invoice, when they come back there might be a process in your office where you approve the invoice. Just to say the customer said yes, and again of course I can search my invoice screen for everything approved and everything not approved, so I can keep an eye on what's going on. So I'm going to approve this invoice. As soon as I approve it, guys, for those of you who are listening with accounts people sat next to you, in accounts terminology, that's posted in Joblogic. Okay, so if I suddenly think, well, I'm going to change the sales value, I'm going to do this, you can't. You've got to credit it. You've got to credit a line, you've got to credit everything or an amount to basically be able to legally affect a change in the sales values. You can edit the costing and the cost screen as much as you want because that's to do with you. But obviously, as you guys know from an accounts world and people using it already, you can't just suddenly change the sales value. You're going to have to credit it back, or again, credit a line back. So my credits, if I do any, will live in here. And if you do sign up for the payment gateway, it will tell you if the customer has paid here, or as you can see on my setup here, not only can I send this over by email, I can have my customer call in if I want to and add a payment into Joblogic manually like so. Okay, obviously the beauty is with the email, it asks them for their credit card number and so on, and uses the Stripe gateway to take the payment. And it is, to be fair guys, the Stripe gateway, the payment gateway Stripe, is relatively inexpensive compared to some of the others out there. But have a look at it. There's a video on our website as well about how to join up with Stripe. It's really quick and easy, and it's whether you want to be able to accept payments or not. I'm telling you as your trainer that it's a good option. We don't get any kickbacks or commission or anything like that. It's just a nice, neat little feature. So if you don't want to use that, as I said, you can just say they've paid, and it will obviously keep an eye on your balance for the people who want to use that to watch their invoice balances inside Joblogic rather than your accounts package. Last thing guys, inside your invoice menu on the left hand side, like everything else in Joblogic, you've got an invoice desk. So again, like your purchase order desk, you have an invoice desk. So you can see, just like your job desk for you guys using it now, I've got my tabs sort of area over here, so I can see any draft credits, any approved credits, any draft invoices that I haven't sent and approved yet, so I've got to deal with these. And I've got 3 approved invoices here, and this was ours that we've just done. So again, I can go back into it, I can reprint it, I can credit it, I can download it, whatever I want to do guys. Okay, right guys, that's everything I wanted to talk to you about today. As we said, 40-45 minutes for these webinars at the moment, just to go through some nice detail like that. Of course, just thank you for your attendance and involvement today. It's great to see so many people getting involved with these now. And of course, don't forget, we have our Joblogic website where you've got a huge knowledge base, online chat. You've got obviously access to our support team, and there's online videos and user guides, and there's a whole host of things there to help you in case you're the kind of person that wants to get their hands dirty and stuck in. Of course, there's other people who just want to pick up the phone, speak to someone like me, and get an answer and crack on with the rest of their day. Either way guys, we're here to help you. Okay, so just use that knowledge base and pick up the phone if you need to chat to someone.